Welcome to Alan Skorsky Reports. I'm Alan Skorsky. In less than 3 weeks into his presidency, Donald Trump has established himself as the leader of the free world and beyond. Into his second term, President Trump has inherited a very different world than in 2016. Let's consider his accomplishments in the Middle East and action in combating antisemitism. For starters, the president has nominated the most pro-Israel cabinet in history. The president issued an executive order calling for revoking visas for foreign students engaged in pro-Hamas activism. The president has suspended all funding for the pro-Hamas UNRWA. Donald Trump released all the weapons held up by the Biden administration and authorized new weapon sales needed by Israel to crush Hamas. The president will also be sanctioning the ICC. Now, the president is proposing the ultimate game changer, calling on Arab countries to take in Gazans, while the U.S. considers plans to rebuild and own Gaza, turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East. These recent declarations have sent shockwaves through the Middle East and around the globe. Conservatives are waiting for more details, while liberals and progressives are losing their minds. Today, we have the privilege to hear directly from Israel, from the host of the popular podcast, Pulse of Israel, Avi Abelow. Avi is also an active IDF reserve soldier and is the CEO of 12 Tribe Films Foundation. Avi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan, for having me. It's a pleasure being on your show.
It's great to see you again. So let's kind of have a back and forth conversation about this. After Trump was elected, he warned that Hamas better release all the hostages before he comes into office, or there would be hell to pay. Then Steve Witkoff goes to Israel, meets with Bibi. No one knows what was really said behind closed doors unless you do. And a deal is struck. Emotions are high on all sides about whether this was a good deal, a bad deal, but that some were saying that Trump was already starting to bully Bibi. Now, after 2 weeks of being in office, Israel and all of us are singing Trump's praises, following the announcement about relocating Gazans and what the future lies ahead for Gaza. So I guess my question for you is, there's been such an emotional roller coaster for Israelis, for supporters of Israel, and where things are going to go from here, and trying to understand what Trump is saying when he throws things out there. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you.
Wow, that is a lot. Which point exactly do you want me to touch first, Alan?
You know what? You have so much. Anytime I've heard you speak, you have a lot to say. So I could throw anything out there and you're going to hit it out of the ballpark anyhow. So I guess starting with this, Israelis, again, the whole country, our Klal Yisrael have been traumatized since October 7th.
Right.
We were, during the Biden administration, he did some good things, did a lot of lousy things, and I think he did more bad than good. And we were praying for a Trump victory.
Right.
So at first, again, I'm here as an American. He nominates Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Stefanik, Mike Walls. And again, we couldn't have asked for better.
Right.
For me as an activist, and someone tries to understand what's being said, I wasn't shocked by the hostage deal. I don't think that Trump was bullying anything. I don't think Witkoff did anything bad. Again, I wasn't at the meeting. But I think that all of this happened to kind of lead us to where we are today.
All right, I guess let's start with a hostage. I don't even call it a deal, a hostage extortion.
Extortion, right.
Horrible, horrible, horrible deal. Horrible, endangering deal. And you want to know the way I measure about it being horrible? Would Trump have made that deal for America? No way. The releasing of thousands of terrorists with blood on their hands? Trump would never do anything like that to endanger America and Americans. So it's a horrible deal. It's appeasing an enemy. It was pressuring Israel instead of pressuring the true perpetrators of October 7th. There was no pressure on Hamas, no pressure on Qatar, no pressure on Egypt, no pressure on Iran. They all should have been pressured, not Israel. Why did we have to give up free terrorists from jail, pull the IDF out of Gaza? Do you see America ever pulling out of a place it goes into? Would America pull out of Mexico if Mexico had done an invasion and massacred tens or hundreds of thousands of Americans? No way.
But
Never.
the
Okay. So
difference
what's the
is, go ahead.
context? Wait, I just want to give the whole context.
Yeah,
That's the beginning. Okay.
sure.
I believe Trump had no clue about this deal. He basically told Witkoff, and again, he likes using people he trusts. And Witkoff is his golfing buddy, so he trusts him.
Right.
So Witkoff, I want you to get a deal signed and sealed and in action before my inauguration. Trump's not a details guy. And we saw this also at his press conference when he announced the plan about the migration. There is no plan. I don't even know if Netanyahu knew that Trump was going to say that. I highly doubt Trump told him, oh, I'm going to say this and this is what we're going to work on. I'm sure they spoke about other things. Anyone who knows Trump's modus operandi, he throws out big ideas that he wants. Sometimes it's to accomplish, and sometimes it's part of the whole art of the deal to come to something in the middle. So you don't always know with Trump, but he's not on top of the details. So it's Witkoff who goes, okay, my boss told me to make a deal by inauguration day. What's the easiest way I can make a deal? Oh, I don't want to renegotiate a deal. The Biden administration worked on one. He doesn't know whether it's good or bad. He just knows there was one that was being worked on. I'm going to put that through because that's already written up. Israel already agreed to it under the pressure of Biden. It was Hamas that said no to it. So he goes, I'm going to put the screws on to get this deal done so I can go home to my boss, President Trump, and say, I got you a deal for inauguration day. Witkoff he did not understand. He's not a bad guy. I mean, I was calling for him to be fired after this because it's a horrendous deal that I think he and Trump are right now backpedaling, saying it's not their deal. It was Biden's deal, which is very interesting. And it's showing that they've understood how horrible a deal it is. So they don't want to take personal responsibility for the details of the deal.
Yeah.
But at the time, he was the one who pushed and pressured Netanyahu to make sure this deal went through, which is a horrible deal. So and again, I'm not Netanyahu. I don't know what pressures he's under. I would have liked for him to say to Witkoff, you know what? First of all, let me look at this. And then for him to go to other channels to reach Trump and say, Trump, I want to give you a deal for inauguration day because I know that's what you want. And I'll do that for you. But this is Biden's deal and it's horrible because A, B, and C. Make it better and we'll have a deal. You wouldn't want to release thousands of terrorists to the streets. You want to pull out your troops after and allowing the evil enemy to go back and show victory over its population. Let's make it a better deal. And Netanyahu did not do that, or maybe he did, don't know. But in the end, it didn't look like he did that because he wanted to give Trump a win and start off Trump's presidency on the right foot, based on the analysis that I'm understanding. I don't think he knew everything that was going to be announced or talked about or decided about in this meeting with Trump. But I do believe Netanyahu agreed to this horrendous extortion deal because, again, thinking I want to be on the right foot with Trump in order to accomplish things that will be able to deal with the consequences of this horrible deal in a much bigger picture. When I sit down with Trump, I'll swallow this horrible deal. And he did have to swallow it because it caused one of the parties of his coalition government to leave, which was very unnecessary and didn't have to happen. Like, he wants to come back now.
Right.
Morally, he was right to leave. Like, why should you stay in a government? I mean, not saying I agree or disagree because it's a political decision, but on a moral stance, why do I want to be, if I was a minister, why do I want to be part of this government, at a right-wing government who always calls out against horrible deals, that releases terrorists and it's appeasing our enemies and not making them pay the price? I would also not want to be part of a government. I want to be associated. I'm not right-wing if I'm agreeing to that. The left wing is going to use that against the right. Oh, you agreed to a horrible deal too. So you can never tell us never to agree to a horrible deal. So there was validity to Ben-Gvir leaving the government, whether right or wrong on a political level. That's a different conversation. But yet he wants to come back now, seeing where the Trump administration, after the Netanyahu-Trump meeting, the direction that things are going. And not everything is going to be roses for Israel, but it's definitely going to be much better than many of us were very worried about, especially on the day of the meeting itself. The headlines in Israel that were being pushed by anonymous sources within the prime minister's office or delegation, saying that Trump was going to pressure Bibi to accept the establishment of a Palestinian state because that's a demand of Saudi Arabia in order to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia. That was the headline going on in Israel the hours before the meeting. So we were all in trepidation, like, oh no, we're going to go down this path again, even under a Trump administration, even with a Rubio as Secretary of State, even with a Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, even with Stefanik at the United Nations. They're still going to go in this appeasing the Islamic enemy direction that's not going to bring any peace and just keep the terror going and going and going. So this is minutes before the live feed of the meeting and the actual talk of Trump and Netanyahu. That's literally what I was thinking. So I am pleasantly surprised with the direction of the Trump Netanyahu meeting. I can't say I'm 100% happy with Trump's announcement that the U.S. will have control of Gaza. I mean, the joke is that Israel and America are going to be neighbors, right? All of a sudden, you're seeing memes going around with Gaza, the U.S. flag over Gaza. So, first of all, everyone, I don't know how many people are on top of what's going on. Once again, you can't take Trump literally. He throws out an idea. There is no plan. Gaza is not all of a sudden going to be the 52nd American state. It's not going to be an American colony. He means America to be involved to rebuild Gaza, and America will be behind the scenes working with other powers to build up casinos and hotels and a beautiful Riviera on the Gaza Strip. All right, who knows what's going to be? Because believe it or not, by the time that there will be rebuilding possible in the beautiful Gaza Strip, which again, I'm on a list to buy property in Gaza. There are thousands of Jewish families on a list already for buying property in Gaza the day where we finally liberated it and we're allowed to rebuild there. I've been telling my children since 2005. Again, I don't know how many people are familiar with me and my background. I actually made a movie about what happened to the Jewish families in Gaza. It's called Home Game. You can go to my website, israelandwire.com, and search Home Game, Gush Katif, Gaza, and you can watch my movie, see exactly what happened. I was there when it happened. I was trying to help the family struggle to stop the destruction and the expulsion from happening. We did not succeed. It happened. But since that day that they removed forcefully 10,000 Jews from their homes and destroyed all the 21 beautiful, beautiful Jewish communities that were there on the Gaza Strip, all of my children know one day we're going to be living back in Gaza and we're all going to have homes in Gaza. So it's not just me and my wife that have our names are on the list. All four of my boys are on that list. So one day we're going to have 5 Abelow homes in the Gaza Strip. Please, God. All right? Because that's the future. It was inevitable that we'd be back there because our enemies there have been using that as a terror launching pad since the second they are able to, when they were able to have self-rule. It's inevitable. The only way we're going to have security is by Israel being once again in charge of Gaza, and the only way we can be in charge of Gaza with our military is also with a civilian presence. So again, it's inevitable we're going to be living there again. So am I happy about Trump saying, oh, it's going to be American territory or whatever? That doesn't make me happy, but again, the trajectory is good. He is the first president, the first leader who basically just rationalized and legitimized the concept of getting rid of terror-supporting Arab Muslims from living in your midst.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Last week, someone would have screamed at you if you said, oh, you're a communist, right? All of a sudden, President Trump said it.
Yep.
And again, everyone should be reminded. If you really go back to the tapes and you listen to Mayor Kahana years ago, his concept was incentivized immigration. Let them leave. Pay them to leave and go to other places. Right. And most people don't know. I don't know how many of your listeners know. Majority of the Arab Muslims in Gaza, Judea and Samaria, and Israel are not from here. You go back to the immigration books of Britain and Turkey. 1 million Arab Muslims came into our country between 1840 and 1948. Majority of them, they have no connection to this land. They're from the rest of the Arab Muslim world, Middle East, North Africa. I mean, just a few years ago, a Hamas leader, I think it was 2014, there's a famous video put up by Memory of a Hamas leader screaming into the cameras, because 2014 there was another IDF operation in Gaza to stop the rockets that were being shot at us. And the Hamas leader was pleading in this interview in Arabic. We Gazans, we're Egyptian, we're Saudi Arabian. Our last names are this because they come from this area in Egypt. Our last names are this because they come from this city in Saudi Arabia. They know they're not from here. They know it. So, yeah, let them leave. Let them. No one wants to invest in rebuilding Gaza if it's going to turn back into another area that another Arab Muslim entity, call it Hamas, call it the Islamic Jihad, call it the Palestinian Authority, call it the Mothers for Teddy Bears, right? Doesn't make a difference. They're going to regroup and attack us again.
Right.
So why invest and rebuild? No one's going to do that. They have no future there. Let them leave and go have lives in other places where they can actually live and not be used as human shields by their terrorist lords who don't care about their lives. And again, I love every person. We're all created by God. I don't have any bad bone in my body against any Muslim. Not all Muslims are bad. But there is a stream of Islam that wants to take over the world, kill all infidels, and they're very much in our midst. And the mothers in Judea and Samaria and Gaza and even in Israel raise their children to be proud of Jews being killed and for them to be martyrs.
Right.
Why should we allow them to live amongst us? And I'm also a big supporter. President Trump, before his election, he said one of the policies he wanted to institute in America, and he's starting to introduce this, anyone in America who supports terror should be exported from America. I don't think it's gotten to the level of finding the law if they're American citizens, but in the meantime, it's for those they're on student visas or whatever things. But Trump understands, and many, if you're a sane person, why do you want someone who wants to kill you to live next to you? He has no right to live next to you if he wants to kill you. So yeah, let them leave and help them leave. That's the most moral thing to do. So I am happy with Trump's plan because he just broke the overtone window,
right,
and opened the conversation to the actual most practical, moral solution to bringing peace in the Middle East. And that is, if you want to kill a Jew, well, go live in another place that agrees with you killing Jews, not next to the Jews. Sounds simple and moral to me.
right.
So the future, the trajectory for a good future is there. Like I tell people in all my Pulse of Israel programs, there's still going to be bumps along the road. I mean, we have to, and this is a message I give to all Israel supporters, all Israelis. Trump is not the Messiah. Okay? We don't pray to Trump. He's the president of America. He's not the president of Israel. He's going to do what he believes in the best interest of America. And even if I think something regarding Israel is in the best interest of America, if he thinks otherwise and he's being convinced otherwise, he's going to do that, even if it hurts us. Rather than a geopolitical decision, who knows what. So we have to stand up for ourselves. And we can't be waiting for Trump to save us.
Correct.
Or the American administration to save us. We have to start standing up and stop cowering, and this is what we have to focus on the next 4 years, and this is what we have to empower our politicians in Israel to focus on the next 4 years, to take advantage of having an administration that is interested in us being strong and standing strong for ourselves. The first U.S. administration ever, meaning even Trump's first administration, wasn't in the position, meaning with all three houses, Congress, Senate,
legislature,
White House, right, to be able to stand by and support us to do what we need to do. And that's why it's interesting. Like, I really believe like the hand of God that Trump was not president in 2020.
Correct.
Because if he would have become president in 2020, I think the House would have been Republican, the Senate would have been Democrat. So he still would have not been able to do what was necessary to save America. and drain the swamp in America. He would have not have been able to put in an Elon Musk to do what he's doing right now, and he wouldn't have been able to do and stand up by Israel. So it's again, you have to be a believer, and I'm a
Correct.
Orthodox religious Jew. I am a believer. Like God's running things, even though I was upset and saddened and felt like a Biden-Harris win in 2020 was horrendous and Trump should have won.
Right.
But God knows what he's doing, and it's good that he's back in 2024, where White House, Senate, Congress able to bring in Elon Musk, drain the swamp, save America, take down the deep state in America, and be able to stand strongly for Israel. And it's up to us in Israel to take advantage, hopefully 4 years, definitely 2 years, of growing developing the DNA in our own political system to do what is necessary and not be afraid, oh, what's America going to say?
Correct. Well, again, like you said, and I agree with everything you said. And I always say God has a plan. There's a reason why Obama won before. Obama's presidency opened the doors for a Trump presidency.
100%.
Biden winning opened the door for a potential Trump legacy because America and the world needed to see the differences between the two. See, Obama could be a terrible president, but a real smooth operator. Right. We needed a Biden and Harris to show the world how dangerous an incompetent administration can be. So, Avi, we got about a couple of minutes left. I know we could talk for an hour. Again, I saw the images here when Bibi came to the White House. Those images and him with Hegseth standing there together, majestic, playing Hatikva, playing the star, the Pledge of Allegiance, Star Spangled Banner. And I've never seen an image like this before in American history. And I'm wondering, and I'm thinking to myself, the leaders in the Arab world are losing their minds. Progressives are losing their minds. The European leaders are losing it because they have no moral fiber, period. They have turned their continent over to the Islamists and Palestinianists. So now it's going to be, and now because Trump is so strong, they're going to have to fall in line.
Right. Yeah. But the most important point, like I always want to emphasize to people, is no matter what Trump does, and no matter what countries fall in line, there's always going to be evil powers out there. We can never delude ourselves to think, oh, it's going to disappear.
Right.
No. Our job, I believe our job as Jews, right? The Jewish people, we're here to spread light. Like in Judaism, we learn what's the best way of getting rid of darkness? By spreading light. Okay? Darkness is always there. It's how much light can we spread? We can never delude ourselves to think, oh, the darkness is going to disappear. There's never a vacuum. Meaning, I was at a talk, and I'll end with this point. I was at a talk where it was an Israeli politician who was saying, oh, with the Trump administration coming in, we'll be able to take out the Iranian nuclear threat, and then there'll be peace in the Middle East. And I spoke right after this guy. And thank God he left, because I said, I have all the respect for this Israeli politician, but I can't believe how naive he is. When Iran is taken out, there's still Turkey that wants to take over the world. There's still the Muslim Brotherhood that wants to take over the world. There's Qatar using Al Jazeera trying to brainwash and destroy the West. Egypt is, meaning there's always going, and if one of those, if they fall, there's going to be someone else. There's always going to be an entity out there wanting to do bad things. Our job is to, one, spread truth, spread light, and always be prepared and be strong, and never to delude ourselves like what happened to the Israeli people in 1993. And I was here in Israel, and I protested against the Oslo Accords, screaming out of my top of my lungs how dangerous it's going to be. That's not going to bring peace. It's going to bring more war and bloodshed. But people were tired and naive to believe, oh, we can have peace with the Arab world. We're never going to have peace with the Arab world. We can have peaceful time periods. We can have peaceful relations with certain countries. They might last a long time, but I'm a big student of Dr. Mordechai Kedar, the expert on Islam in the Middle East, and I asked him about the Abraham Accords 5-6 years ago, right? Well, I said, what do you think about the Abraham Accords? He goes, listen, any agreement signed in the Middle East with the Arab Muslims is like the sand in the desert. It all depends upon the wind. Meaning we can never, never let our guard down to think, oh, we have these peaceful relationships right now, peaceful relations with X country. We're set. We got a great future. No, Israel must always be strong. And this is, I've been saying this, Dr. Kedar says this, the only way, and we will achieve this, please God, one day, to achieve long, quiet, peaceful relations in the Middle East is if Israel is so strong that we are feared. The second we let our guard down and our neighbors around us, or any of our neighbors around us, think that we're not afraid anymore. Right. I mean, sorry, that we're not strong enough anymore to stand up for ourselves, and therefore they're not afraid of us anymore. That's when they will attack. Right. So we pray for the day that Mashiach comes so that our guns can turn into plowshares, right? Our swords will turn into plowshares. Right. But until that day, we can never delude ourselves into believing, oh, if we make this peace agreement with Saudi Arabia, and then we make this peace agreement with it, oh, we're going to have peace. We can let our guard down. We don't need an army anymore. We don't have to send our children to the army anymore. No, forget about it. We're always going to have to send our children to the army until Mashiach comes. And that's not something we have to feel bad about, feel embarrassed about. No, that's part of our Jewish DNA. We are the Jewish warriors back of Talmud times. Sorry, not in the Talmud. We weren't warriors. Not back of Bible times, right, and the Maccabees. And yeah, we are going to be able to protect ourselves and protect the whole freedom-loving world by being prepared. And by being prepared is, yes, having an army, ensuring our children continue to go to the army, and praying for Mashiach to come as soon as possible for that day to end. But until then, we have to be vigilant.
Avi, thank you so much for joining us today. You were great as always. It's always great to see you. And continued Hatzlacha, continued everything you're doing, and looking forward to seeing more of your videos from the Pulse of Israel and 12 Tribe Films.
Thank you, Alan. A pleasure. I look forward to seeing you in person next time.
Great.